Tero, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
So I watched a lot of interviews in preparation for this, and you have so many different parts of your life, like interesting stories that you get into. It seemed like there weren't a lot where you got into them all, so I'm going to try to piece together this timeline.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed you talking about was, you grew up in Finland.
Mm-hmm.
You had a period where you were in LA. You're in Austin. Are there any other pieces of your life on your entrepreneurial journey between there? Other places you were living, other sort of timelines that you haven't talked a lot about? Like, how did you go from Finland, being a mushroom farmer in school, to then running Four Sigmatic? What were some of the like locations and different lives you were living in between?
Oh, so many. They all make sense if you break them down, but a lot of times people are like, how old are you? Are you like 60 years old?
Exactly. Yeah.
I've lived in 8 other countries between Finland and the US.
Wow.
And yeah, so I grew up in Finland. I grew up on a farm, left pretty early to work in a factory. So basically during high school, I worked in a paper factory at like nights and evenings. Mm-hmm. You have to get a special permission. I think it's actually from the president if you're underage working night shifts and whatever.
Yeah.
But Finland has a big paper industry. So I did that, got some money, tried to start a couple businesses. They failed horribly. I knew nothing.
Okay.
One of them was with my friend. We tried to import like custom clothing from Vietnam. We had neither of us never been to Vietnam.
Yeah.
And oh my God, what a mess. They got stuck in the customs.
Yeah.
But then went to school. I had dropped out of originally high school and finished high school as like an evening high school. That's meant for like boomers that
Go back to high school.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did like adult high school because I was working in the factory.
Okay.
And then I did college 1 year, dropped out of college. I wanted to learn how to sell. So I went to like the Verizon of Finland and Sweden type of thing.
Okay.
And did sales and taught sales there, which was horrible and difficult.
Yeah.
But like you learn a little bit about something.
Yeah.
And then I went back and finished college and then left as I was doing that. So I finished the college overseas. Yeah, and then I lived in Vancouver, worked for a university. I worked for a big tech company in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And then when I started Four Sigmatic, we were originally based, the previous company that Four Sigmatic is based on, it was based in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. And during that time, I also went back to Canada to help us launch there. I lived in the Philippines because we didn't have any salary. So I had to go somewhere where my savings from Switzerland would run a long time. So there was a lot of different phases.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. And I know you talked about that Hong Kong company. What happened with that? How did the partnership dissolve? I know you mentioned that was the early instantiation of Four Sigmatic that then transitioned into what it is now. What were the differences between those two?
Yeah, it was called Loan to Life. We founded it in 2012. I had 2 co-founders, Mikko and Mika. And I knew them both for a long time. And we had started a nonprofit sports organization. So I had an experience with working with them on nonprofit, not making money. But then we were getting older and we needed to make money. So I think both of them kind of burned out and went different ways. Mikko started like another business. He didn't want to do this one. And then Mika went to work for someone at that point. So they both basically quit it after 2 years. And then at that point, we already had few founding team members. And they were we're like, what are we going to do? We had taken our first angel investment from one of our suppliers.
Okay.
Like
Wow.
$50K.
Wow.
The first money, 2 years in, first money we got was a $50K investment.
Yeah.
And we're like, shit, now we're kind of, we have somebody we're reporting to, even though it's just $50K.
For sure. Yeah.
And we're like, what are we going to do? And the whole founding team was like, we can keep going. And so we started a new company, basically Four Sigmatic in the US. We bought the remains of the Hong Kong business. Mika and Mikko went their own ways. And the founding team became the founding group of the Finnish fund guys for Four Sigmatic. And that was kind of the start of it.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. You mentioned too, it sounds like there were just, quite a few different phases in the company, but there was one point where you mentioned using a profit share structure to grow the company.
Yes.
You mentioned this on Daniel Ryan Moran's podcast. It seemed like it was very non-traditional in that it almost sounded like a lot of people at the company were being treated like partners, where a percentage of distributions would be going to the team members. And of course, you can tell me where I'm right or wrong here. How did that work? Would you recommend that for other entrepreneurs? And like, how was that instrumental or detrimental to the early success?
It can work.
Yeah.
It's very fair. It's very Nordic in the sense.
Okay.
So basically everybody who was an employee was even a small shareholder. In the US, usually people give stock options that are not worth much, or there's like, this one was straight up, you would invest at a very, 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 very low valuation, but you would have money in. At that point, that was meaningful money. People would put somewhere between 5 and 20K in of their own money, which was a lot to them. So they had like skin in the game. And then initially we had 4 people on this like profit share. And it would basically X% of revenue would go to this pool, and it would be split 4 ways. And then there was an upper ceiling. If like sales would explode, it wouldn't go past this point because we had to reinvest it in the business.
Yeah.
And it can be great in the sense that everyone feels fair. Everybody's aligned with the same North Star of revenue growth, right? Because everybody's going in the same direction. Everyone feels fair.
Yeah.
But it's not a very scalable system for a bunch of reasons. Okay. Not everybody's pulling the same weight.
Yeah.
And it can hurt further scaling later down the road. So at some point we had to like actually have salaries, and the salaries might have not been equal, but like it can work in the beginning for like a year or 2.
Yeah. And how are those conversations when you had to like transition from, hey, we're going to do this profit share, we're a team, to like, we have to do salaries, this has to change? Was that challenging, or the team was just, they understood?
Yeah, they understood. Yeah. I think everyone knew the numbers. Everyone knew where we were. And then the one person who was impacted the most, he was just having his first kid, and we were just hiring our first CFO. Yeah. That was going to be like first like properly salaried person.
Yeah.
Because he already had a kid, and he was coming from a big company to join us. So, it's like made sense at that point.
There are some interesting quotes from some of the interviews you did on your early time at Four Sigmatic. You talk about in your early days, you didn't know what you were doing. This profit share thing you mentioned as like unconventional. Maybe it was a bad idea. But you mentioned being a really hardcore naturalist, herbalist, to the point where you were like evangelizing people on the importance of like natural living. It was almost like a religion. And you say like now you've refined that. You're not as immature as you were then. Like, what was that Tero like? And I'm asking because you talk about how this is such a big part of the soul of the company, what made you unique to investors, partners, people who are like, this guy's doing something interesting. What was that like extreme Tero like? What were you like back then?
I was super extreme mentality, but also everyone in the team were. So these are all basically Finnish guys between the ages of, I think the youngest was like 23 and the oldest was like 30. Everybody had gone to the military. One was a former Olympic athlete.
Wow.
One, there's like, these are kind of radical people.
Yeah.
And then we would be together, kind of radical together. And there was like us against the world mentality.
Yeah.
And there was some like enjoyment that we got from taking it too far.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know if that explains it. But
yeah,
when you put young guys together, like the stupidity multiplies a little bit.
Yeah.
So in this case, instead of it being channeled to something unproductive, it was channeled into pretty hardcore, like diet, nutrition, beliefs, and experiments. A lot of experiments, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember you in another discussion or interview talking about some of the early, like, the potions, for lack of a better word, you would make prior to coming out with something more easy to integrate in your diet, like coffee, ways to get mushrooms. But
yeah, we would also love the shock value a little bit quietly.
Yeah.
It was never spoken. But we would go to our first U.S. health and wellness biohacking paleo shows, and we would like buy a bottle of like a health product that's supposed to last a month.
Yeah.
And we would just go, and in front of their booth, we would just chug it. And it's their product. And they're all like, who are you? And then we'd have these mushroom elixirs that's powder. So we would do dry shots.
Wow.
So we would just like throw like these powders. And people are like, who
are these guys?
Crazy. So, there's like a shock value in that too. But that's how we actually behaved every day. It was not just for that health show, but... Like our first big trade show, which is this called Expo West in Anaheim, California, every year in March. And I think it's our first show. Me and our product guy, Larry, we would go to the parking lot, pick up wild pine pollen. Pine pollen is one of the only ways that you get natural testosterone from a plant.
Okay.
It
In Anaheim, California, in the parking
Yes,
lot.
in the
Okay.
parking lot.
Nice.
And we're like collecting it at the start of the show.
Yeah.
Or we did first sampling session when we lost in New York. There was this Smorgasburg, it's in Fredericksburg. There was like a market for years.
Okay.
They had like wild mulberries growing in the tree.
Okay.
And we would climb in the tree while we're sampling our product to pick up berries. And the park services came to like kick us out
Yeah.
because they were like, "Oh, we're eating wild food in New York City."
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And you're like, what are you guys talking about? We're from Finland. Like, this
Yeah.
is just what we do. Like,
Yeah.
I got it. Okay. Interesting. So, like, how much do you think this ethos, this energy the team had, like, did create some sort of energy or word of mouth around this early version of Four Sig that, you know, brought just interested people into the fold?
I don't think it made any sense business-wise.
Okay.
Like if you
Fair
would
enough.
start a business, you would not get ROI for that activity. But what it did do, it's for the first many years, we would find these super fans of people you could not like buy.
Yeah.
So like your favorite health influencer was a raving Four Sigmatic.
Yeah, for sure.
So we would stand that way. Or we would get these celebrities that don't do, like musicians or people that don't do any endorsement deals ever, promoting us for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the impact for credibility. And I'm sure there's some halo effect later.
Yeah.
But it didn't really, like, it didn't show up on the scoreboard. Like if you want to maximize revenue and profits, that's not probably the way to go. You want to meet the consumer halfway. And I've learned that hard way, especially with price and flavor. Like you can't be too extreme or you're going to lose a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely seen that with flavor for a lot of brands. Want to dig a little bit more into this like early extreme sort of ethos. On another podcast, you mentioned like looking at the overall health of different countries and how there's such big differences in how people live, particularly in the US and Finland. And you talked about government health spending versus life expectancy. Is that something you've always been interested in? Like this macro scale health trends in different companies? Is that something you and your founders were interested in, or was that just kind of later you started paying attention to those things?
Yeah. Rewinding a little back, we have to go to the military. I mentioned I was served in the Air Force. After the Air Force, or actually during it, I realized that I'm not sure who I am. I'm not sure who is me. And I was like, everything I knew was from my friends and from TV and others. So I started this process of unlearning. This was before Four Sigmatic. So for a good 5-6 years, it was a lot of like peeling the onion, figuring out who I am. And as part of that thing, I was asking my like aunts and uncles and parents of like, what was I as like a little kid? Like, what was my energy? We're both new parents, you know, like you're like vibing the little kid is like, what's that soul and spirit? And apparently I was always obsessed with maps and the world.
Okay. Yeah.
So when I was like a little kid, I had memorized every country and capital in the world at that time.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's like 200.
Yeah.
And a little autistic behavior, by the way. But I was always super fascinated by culture, and that probably took me traveling and living different places too. And so I think that's where the interest is, like figuring out like mass level. Because there's always this anecdotal evidence, like I took this supplement and I'm jacked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you should do, or like this workout program and I have abs.
Yeah.
Or it's a good program,
Yeah.
but you're very lean and you're genetically great.
Yeah.
So like all these like anecdotal stories. But if you take almost any nation in the world, it's large enough sample size to pick up patterns or what's working, what's not working. And although I love US as an entrepreneur in many ways, and the top of the healthcare is amazing. If you look at the mass of how much US is spending on healthcare as a society, both the government and then out-of-pocket expenses, it's way more than anyone else.
Yeah.
But the health outcomes are not way better than everyone else. They're actually worse than many countries. So I think there's something in the society and in the healthcare system that's clearly not working. I think everyone knows that. And money is not the solve.
Yeah.
At least the money in the current method is not the solve.
For sure. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So definitely looking at some of the inputs and outputs and what are those variables behind the scenes that are creating those. It sounds like interesting.
And living in places like Switzerland and Finland are often like doing better than many others. So there's like, you can learn from those societies and cultures because both are, at least today, fairly affluent. Switzerland has been affluent for a long time. So what are they doing better?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And what can we learn from that? For sure. Changing gears a little bit into kind of a little bit more of the company's founding and how you got to where you're at now. You mentioned this story about chaga, one of the first big mushrooms that were studied, being used in World War II when there was not a lot of coffee beans or none in Finland. Afterwards, studied at the University of Helsinki, found out to have tons of antioxidants, incredible health compound, and that's kind of when Finland started using that as like a normal thing, chaga brewed coffee. For some of these other things like lion's mane, cordyceps, all these other compounds, where did you guys first learn about them? Is that something everyone uses in Finland now? Or is it as research backed as something like chaga? Like, where did all these other compounds come into the mix?
Yeah, a lot of our inspiration early on from me and the founding team came from a blend of traditional Chinese medicine
Okay. Yeah.
and the kind of early U.S. superfood movement.
Yeah.
So people like David Wolf or
Yep.
Daniel Vitalis, those kinds of folks early on, that were educating about the Erewhon when they had one location or two locations.
Yeah.
Like we would fly to LA and visit these tonic bars.
What time frame is this?
First time I came to like really check out the scene was like 2013 and 2014.
Okay. Yeah.
That was when I got to the U.S. I had visited the U.S. before, but that was like when I like toured every health restaurant.
Checked everything out.
Yeah, in New York and Southern California.
Yep.
And we lived a few months of the year on like a tourist visa in like New York and L.A.
Oh,
and
nice.
and like just trying to visit every place and figure out the market before launching in the U.S.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was like a lot of the inspiration. But there are certain ingredients that are also part of Finnish society. So, you know, like your berries and your chagas and your rhodiolas and herbs like that. But then the other ones. And Mikko had lived in Asia before, and he had a lot of like sourcing contacts at the previous company phase.
Okay. Yeah.
And before he left, so we had some connects through that also. And then I had lived in like Philippines and whatnot. So a lot of Asian influence combined with the Nordic, and then the early kind of North American superfood herbalist movement.
Okay. Now I'm starting to get the picture, because you mentioned, this blue ocean strategy combining the known with the unknown, and I can see this kind of forming with the Nordic background for some of these superfoods. But I haven't heard you talk about Chinese medicine. How influential is that in Finland in general? And then with you guys, did you have friends that were into that, or in Finland is it bigger?
I don't know what the numbers are now, but I think for a while, Finland spent the most money on superfoods per capita.
Wow.
But superfood would also mean products from South America, Southeast Asia. When we started, there was not a heavy Chinese herbal influence at all.
Yeah.
There's some overlap with Nordic culture and Chinese herbs like licorice. We're big into licorice.
Yeah.
Both. And star anise.
Yep.
There was like
Star anise for sure.
yeah, that kinds of stuff, but it was not conscious. So now it is a lot more common, particularly with like sleep herbs and people who have adrenal fatigue, and these like various natural holistic methods are more common. But back then when we started, not common at all.
Okay.
So actually that was kind of what made us stand out in Europe too, is like we were bringing some of those ingredients like cordyceps into Europe. Before that, nobody really sold cordyceps.
Okay.
Like that was cordyceps and lion's mane were not available in Europe. It was like shiitake and maybe chaga.
Yeah. Because you guys just have so many that you use now. And you mentioned too, with this like University of Helsinki studies on chaga, some of these other compounds. You mentioned you starting Four Sig, you're really standing on the back of giants, all these researchers, academics that have done all this work. Were there any particular that stood out to you guys where you're like, this compound has just all this research on it, we need to use it, it's amazing for marketing, amazing for health?
For me, the first love was cordyceps, because that was the one I felt immediately, and I was doing marathon and ultra runs at that point, and a lot of the team were like endurance backgrounds.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the first love for a lot of people, just because he made people who are not believers. But I think reishi mushroom was always the number one, and I think still is. Like I think it's still so underrated.
Really? What?
By the amount of clinical research on reishi,
Yeah.
2,000 years of consistent use, how it supports with the modern day illnesses and like issues is just unbeatable, I think.
Yeah.
It's just not as sexy as something that's like an upper. A lot of people making mushroom coffee, particularly, or coffee substitute, love like more brain power, more lion's mane, right?
Yeah.
And Rishi's like kind of the opposite energy. It's like the calming, grounding. And I think that's still the winner. Like it's debatable even within herbs too, not just mushrooms or fungi, but like there's not that many natural products that are better than Rishi overall from the amount of people. Like not every person in the world,
Yeah.
but like
A lot.
a lot.
More than
It's like
any other compound.
Yeah, it's like ashwagandha, ginseng, shisandra, reishi. It's like at the top of the top.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I love this. I feel like I'm uncovering some of the old tarot here, which is interesting because like I feel like you dipped into this space a little bit on the Jesse Michaels American Alchemy podcast, the hat, because you talked about
I'm
specifically.
wearing the hat, by the way.
I know that's incredible.
Swag.
It's good swag. You talk about how all these cultures have traditions of using mushrooms intentionally to build, in a lot of cases, like build awareness, build this reflective capacity in their life. Specifically, you guys went on this tear about how Santa Claus was like this old Slavic tradition of using Amanita muscaria to meditate on death and build new levels of awareness in life. So I'm wondering, you talk about that, it's very extreme, but you also talk about how you can use a lot of these modern compounds in mushrooms, like not psychedelic mushrooms, but other ones like reishi or whatever it is, to build these practices to help you build awareness in life. Mm-hmm. You've even said that after people use mushrooms, sometimes they start to notice changes in their life and behavior.
Yes.
So what type of compounds that you can give to people that aren't psychedelic can be used in that way, whether it's Four Sigs or any other one that's like over-the-counter, non-psychedelic?
Yeah. And by the way, I mentioned Chinese medicine. I think it's mostly, just want to highlight, it's because they documented it so well.
Yeah.
It does not mean that they were like the only culture. It happened all around the world. They were just the best at writing and documenting herbal knowledge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of things that take. I often say that like start with spices because they're non-controversial.
Yeah.
Buy really good organic, fresh spices. That's already going to start slowly healing your gut. Any kinds of bitters are also good. So start pounding bitters.
Okay.
Like way too much. Before every meal, take bitters.
No way. Okay.
And I think bitters are coming back a little bit, but those are like some of the easy hacks, like out of the gates. But I think the underrated part that I still struggle with is the nervous system. And we have few of these Archimedes levers, and I don't think the health and wellness circles do justice for it. And I talked about these like 15 years ago.
Long time ago.
Oh, yeah. But it's like things like gut health, which is now trendy, nervous system, which is, and brain. But particularly the nervous system is like everybody's way more wired than they realize.
For sure. Yeah.
For me, how I notice it personally is we go on a holiday. Like I took the kids, we went to Mexico. And it takes me like a good 5 to 7 days to be on vacation before I'm actually present. And I think I'm not even probably the worst that people are, but like I get on a holiday, I'm like, okay, what's next? Let's go. And I just can't sit still. So I had to sit there, by the ocean for a few days watching the kids play before I like actually am present. I'm like kind of useless.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people need things that calm their nervous system and help them sleep better. Thing that we did really well with the early days of the Four Sigmatic as a team for our health and in general was macrodosing. And macrodosing legal things, not talking psychedelics. Like, for example, like we would macrodose a short time period of magnesium, like all kinds of magnesium, like heavy amounts, way more than it's recommended. But it was for us a test if it works. But it's actually, there's an amazing thing that happens if you take a herbal product like Shisandra or you take a magnesium and you take it a high dose of what you learn about it. You become a lot more intimate with it. It like sounds woo-woo, but you learn to feel it in different ways. And I still recommend that to a lot of people. You just have to be kind of more intentional about it. A lot of people take too many supplements at dosages, and they don't know what works, if anything works. So I'm actually like in a lot of cases, it's only way to go far is to go too far.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you develop the relationship with that one substance and
Yes.
can relate to it when it comes in and out in the future. That's actually what I was going to ask you is with this nervous system regulation, did you just start to notice that when you had a family? Because what you describe, I noticed the same thing when I'm on a timeline. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, even if I'm with the family, if she can tell that I'm on a timeline, it bothers her. And I can see you've had that experience.
Yes.
Did you start to notice this when you had a family, or were you already, because of some of this like mega dosing experimentation, you and the guys being extreme, you already were tapped into how like over exerting so many people are?
No, recently, after I had kids, consciously. My best friend has been talking about it for 15 years. Like he's a little more sensitive about it. And he's been talking about it, that he goes to this island in Finland, middle of nowhere. And he says he takes him a week to get. I'm like, I never had that feeling.
Yeah.
Maybe I was younger. Maybe I was like distracted. I don't know what. But I never really had that issue until, Also being married and being with the feminine energy, I think they notice it before you do. That's also helped. But I think just becoming older and having kids, this is like a fairly recent epiphany for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super interesting.
Like I'm rushing us to leave the house when I'm on a holiday. Like it's like, let's go.
For sure.
It's like there's no way to go.
Yeah.
And especially with kids and whatever, it's like we'll take our time. But like, I'm just on a clock.
Yeah. Yeah, the objective is being together versus getting any particular thing done. And it's hard to switch from trying to get something in particular.
Yeah, at least for me. But I think it's a pretty common story. And even with my wife, like, she sometimes struggles with sleep. I've always had an amazing sleeper, which is probably why I didn't realize this earlier, because I had this like buffer. I just always slept great.
Yeah.
She's always slept horrible.
Yeah.
So she's like more sensitive to it. And we went to Lapland to see the Northern Lights and Santa Claus, and we were just bored. We didn't have internet. We didn't have smartphones.
Yeah.
And she was just bored for a few days. And then she was like, oh, I just started sleeping amazing. And then she just like the whole atmosphere and feeling, the magic of Lapland just calmed her down. And she just slept better than she slept in forever. And then she replicated it the next summer at our farm. And she was like, yeah, this is what I need. I need to get bored.
Yeah. Incredibly healing to be bored. I do want to jump into some of the CPG specific stuff because there's so much to go over, but kind of in this section with a quote from your father. He said, I believe this was your father when you mentioned it on Ryan's podcast. He said, a quarter in agriculture and nature is like 25 years, not 3 months. And in business, we're always operating these quarters or months or days. We're trying to move quick. So how has this long-term thinking or state of calm helped you to grow Four Sigmatic and be successful as an entrepreneur versus always just operating on one timeline?
Yeah, first I got to say, I don't know, has it helped me? It could have hurt me.
For sure.
Like, depends what is your definition of success. So, like, I don't know who said it a long time ago. I heard that, like, you're going to build debt one way or the other. I think it was related to software.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't raise a lot of money or have debt from that point of view, then you're going to have tech debt.
Yeah.
Or you're going to have management debt because you hire horrible people at lower levels because you can't afford the really good people because you don't have any money. So one way or the other, you're going to have. But one of the most common ones, what I always thought is like timeline. It's like how quickly you want to grow. Like how good is the foundation of a business? And I've seen it both ways, but my original and my current vision of success were very different than a lot of other people's definition of success. It doesn't mean mine is right. So it really depends on what you're building. But building trust takes a really long time, and building something that will last takes a really long time. And I see it in CPG a lot as like kind of a bridge to your other theme is I've seen a lot of brands go up and come down and be worth nothing.
Yeah.
And then I've had like investors or whatever, whoever panic around me is like, oh, this company's doing so much better than you are. And
Wow. Okay.
you need to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
And like, I think I can give a couple examples now that they're more public, but like we at the same time kind of came from Europe to the US as a brand called Your Super.
Okay.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
They were very heavy D2C. They raised a bunch of money. They took money from Pepsi.
Yep.
They had an amazing offer. They had this detox bundle, high AOV.
Yeah, for sure.
They grew like a rocket ship. They were smaller than us in the beginning, and then they just flew past us in revenue, and then yeah, the musical chairs, the music stopped. There's no more funding. I think the CAC, LTV, something went, I don't know what went wrong. Maybe they hired the wrong people. I don't know that level of detail, but they basically sold for liabilities. And
Wow.
I think the brand is mostly dead.
Yeah.
Same happened with, I think, Golly gummies.
Wow.
There's,
Yeah, I heard.
there's just so many stories. So I've go to the same Expo West show, and if I hear somebody saying they're crushing it or killing it, 50% of the time, a few years from down the road, they're bankrupt.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it sounds like a good lesson to maybe not let that shake you from your convictions. Getting into how you guys branded, one of them is this set of first principles you mentioned, which is have happy customers, serving nature's ancient intent, I believe is the quote from Ryan's podcast, and then playing to win big. And you kind of just maintain those even when people are, going crazy, their hair's on fire around you, like these investors or whoever else. How did you decide on those over everything else? And why have those been a guiding light to the growth you've had?
Yeah, I hired an executive coach for me and the team, and I don't necessarily actually recommend this. I would say the opposite, but at that time we needed it, and my plan was and still is to phase myself out of the business. Like my goal is not to be like the business needs me. It's actually a bad thing. And ever since I had kids, but even before that, I've like consciously thought of how to, be less that the business needs me. It's more like if I'm there, it's good. If I'm not there, it's even better sometimes. So for the last 5 years, my oldest kid is now 5 years. It's been like a constant effort. And what she recommended, which I thought was really smart, is like, what's the stuff that are non-negotiable? Because a lot of my opinions might not be the opinions of the future leaders.
Yeah.
And by the way, your opinions might not be right, and my opinions are often wrong. So totally.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are the non-negotiables? What are the things where you're always right? And like, what do you want the team to remember no matter what? And I think the term first principles is overused. And unless we're talking about physics, it's usually not accurate. But I was accurate enough. And my point with those was like, what I believe will be true in 25 years or 100 years is that like, you need happy customers, and that should be the North Star with all teams, from ops to finance. Sometimes finance does a decision that your customers will hate to save like 5 cents or whatever in COGS, and that's not good. So every team needs to remember that we're here for the happy customers. If you have those, golden. If you don't, you're screwed. The other one is nature's intent, and that's my belief, is that biology moves so slow that we have to honor like nature's, in this case, it means like whole foods, minimal processing, things that have been used for hundreds, if not thousands of years. It does not mean that some medicine couldn't work that gets invented this year or is more novel. But by and large, things that we know for sure work, the name Four Sigmatic comes from foods that are top 100 most researched foods in the world, are things that honor nature's intent. It's a little bit woo-woo and takes a while of discussion with some people to figure out, but it's like really important for the ethos of the company. And the last one is to grow big. And it doesn't mean you will always grow big, but it's like the intent is to grow and take swings. Because small companies or big companies, if you stay complacent, you're going to die. It's like an elevator that only goes up or down. There's no standing still for long. So it's like Blockbuster goes out of business because Netflix comes, and maybe now Netflix goes out of business slowly because TikTok. I don't know. Like, you got to keep growing and evolving. And that's how nature is too. It's like it's always evolving. So those are the things I want the team at Four Sigmatic to know, even if I'm not there. All the other stuff are kind of like mostly opinions. But these I believe to be true now and in the future. At least for this business, in this industry. Like, obviously, I'm not saying it's true for a real estate company.
No, for sure. I mean, it reminds me of like, I think I've heard Jeff Bezos quoted as saying, like, just think about what's not going to change in the future like a million times, because those are good things to bet the future on. Another thing with this blue ocean strategy that you mentioned is you need to be specific about what you're not going to try to compete in. And for you guys, you had these new natural compounds. You were the first to bring out mushroom coffee. Were there anything you consciously said you were not going to compete in? We're not going to be the best at this in coffee or health foods? Or
Yeah, so many. Initially, it was like we only sold instant coffee.
Yeah.
And that leaves probably 90% of the market away.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other one was price. Even when we launched ground coffee, which is our bestseller, we were sold at $24.99 when the second most expensive product was $14.99.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So price was another thing that initially we were not like, hey, like if you don't understand the value of these mushrooms, you're not going to buy it at whatever price.
Yeah.
Since then, we've evolved. Like now we have Nespresso pods and whole bean and whole suite of different kinds of products. And we brought the price down to like $16, $17 on average, right? Per bag of coffee. While others have also gone up. So now the most expensive competitor is like $20.
Yeah.
So along the journey, you can change the trade-offs too. So for us initially, it was like price and limited assortment. But as we went down in price, we could increase volumes, if that makes sense.
Yeah. More assortments, more flavors. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And for the channel expansion, so I've heard you talk a little bit about this. I know you have different thoughts on Amazon versus D2C versus retail. What would you recommend for someone that's getting started? Say it's a company in like the 1 to 3 million ARR range, and then how does that change like your channel expansion strategy once you're in the 8 figures, multi 8 figures range?
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Yeah,
And it's people obsess over this question, maybe too much.
for sure.
It's like if you start working out, they're like, what are the best 5 moves?
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, these are probably the best 5 moves: squat, pull up, whatever. But then I'm not saying that moves number 6 to 15 are any worse. Like they're just slightly different. So, for example, when you choose the channel strategy, I think it's more important just to be really focused instead of going to every channel immediately and becoming really good at it.
Yeah.
And I think what matters is what product category it is, how much there is awareness. For example, it's much easier to create a category on Amazon that gets a lot of searches.
Yeah.
So if there's a high search volume for existing category, and maybe you're a little bit different than that category, but like there's a lot of search volume. It's so much easier. There was no mushroom searches on Amazon in the early on when we went, and it's so much harder.
Yeah.
Same with price point. If you're really kind of affordable AOV product, it's probably TikTok Shop and Amazon. Ignore D2C and just crank those two. Get the views on TikTok and drive the volume on Amazon, and then try to go from there. And versus if you have a more premium price product, you probably have to run D2C a lot longer. So it depends on like your category, competitive landscape, price point, the most. Also, the one that's underestimated or underrated, sorry, I'm ESL here. Underrated is, what are you good at?
Okay.
So I just met a founder who doesn't come from CPG, and he was like, where should I go? Like exactly your question. Like, where should I go?
Where should I start? Yeah.
And I was like, what do you know how to do? Like, what are you good at? He is world-class at events.
Oh, wow.
He's exited a couple event businesses.
Wow.
For big brands.
Yeah.
So he's like business development events. I was like, hey, build around that. Like sell it at channel A and build the brand on events. Because that's like you're world class. And his product is amazing for events. Like own that because you have something no one else has.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people watch YouTube and want to do what their heroes or gurus say. But if you're not good at it, why do it?
Yeah. Makes sense. So you mentioned what you're good at, AOV being a determinant of channel expansion, and then the newness of the category. Like, are you starting a new category? Because if you are, you might need some pre-existing searches for the tangential category.
And competitive landscape, I guess it's 1A, 1B with the category. For example, there's a friend of mine started this brand, Instant Hydration, that's been blowing up.
Yeah.
And they're doing really well. And it's an electrolyte brand. There's electrolytes everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
But most of those electrolytes are sold at Costco, like Liquid IV.
Yeah.
Or they're sold on Amazon, like Element and others, right? Not that many people were doing heavy D2C on electrolyte.
Yeah.
Like there was some like upstart, sure, but like nobody really
Crushing it, yeah.
owned the meta ad for that. It was influencers, retail, and Amazon. So that's a super crowded category, but the competitive landscape said there's space in meta ads. Versus some categories, like right now, mushroom coffee, good luck going to meta.
Yeah.
Unless if you're a new company.
Yeah.
Like that's brutal.
Yeah.
There's some heavy spenders in some
lot.
of those categories.
A lot, yeah.
So like unless you're significantly different, like maybe the meta boat has gone. But maybe on TikTok Shop you have opportunity.
Yeah, that's a great point. Existing channel saturation. For CPG brands, I wanted to ask you this because I know you're an investor too. We had a gentleman who does a lot. He's an influencer, Eric Hinman. I don't know if you're familiar with him on Instagram. Yeah, he does tons of influencer, tons of CPG brands. He's an investor. And he kind of had this like unifying theory of investment where he really likes investing in stuff that causes a state change. Super similar to what you mentioned with cordyceps. Do you have anything just product wise, like we can talk about founding team, all the other things, opportunity on channels later, but product wise, that's like a unifying theory of like good CPG products for you?
Yes. Disclaimer, I've done 20 investments with my own money. I've exited 5. 5 are already in the dumpster. 5 will be in the dumpster, and 5 are TBD.
Cool.
Although the 5 TBD are so far pretty good,
Looking
but
good.
but who knows?
Who knows?
So investor would say that's an amazing hit rate, but I've been wrong more than I've been right so far. What I've come to realize, initially I invested in products I like to use, but sometimes I'm not the consumer, or there's very few consumers like me. It's not good business. And I've come to realize that CPG will come down to mostly 3 things. And you need 2 of these. If you have all 3, amazing. But you need capital. It's very capital intensive, low margin, indefensible business.
Yeah.
So can you build a business without capital? Yes, I've done it myself. Very little capital, but it's a lot easier when you have access to capital. Not tons. Like it's not that when you have the most amount of capital, you're going to win, but it makes things easier.
Yeah.
Second one is you have a CPG team. I see a lot of people coming to this industry because it doesn't require like education that don't have past CPG experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can tell you 50 success stories, but there's probably 5,000 or probably 50,000 that failed. So like understanding margin markups, especially when you go to retail or manufacturing ops, like ops and retail particularly, like you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I made the mistake of hiring like non-seasoned vets, and that makes a huge difference. So if the founders have CPG background, I'm like instantly. So you have capital and a CPG team, you're more likely a winner. The last one is distribution.
Yeah.
So this could be an influencer. So if it's an influencer with money, or if it's an influencer with a CPG team, probability of success is great because they have distribution that's unique to win. It doesn't guarantee you're going to win. Prime hydration, I guess, is one of those stories.
Yes.
But it sure makes the investment more likely to win. It can also mean like restaurants or food service. Like I was offered a deal like last week where there's like a really famous restaurant chain and they are partnering with the brand from launch.
Yeah.
So you'll be instantly in all these places. That's so much more likely to win.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So it sounds like for you, it's less about the product and more about the human ecosystem it's launching into or being launched by.
Yeah. Basically my first 20 investments were all about the product.
Yeah.
And a little bit valuation and team and stuff, but it was like 80% of product.
Yeah.
And I've learned that even if you have a good product, you can lose.
Yeah.
Some of the few that are already in the dumpster were amazing products.
Yeah.
Some of the best products I've ever invested have gone out of business because if you can't get people to buy it, it's dead very quickly.
Yeah.
And then I've seen one of my best investments, the product kind of sucked. I think I mentioned it before we started filming, but I invested even without trying it originally. My friends had loved it.
Yeah.
And I first tried it right as I had sent the money.
Nice.
And
Wish you hadn't sent the money.
Not great.
Yeah.
But they pivoted.
Yeah.
They were good operators and they improved on it. And boom, now the product is great.
Yeah.
So if you have a bad product, you can make it better. If you have a great product, you can go out of business.
Yeah.
So money, team, and distribution, I think you need 2 of those.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense, especially when you're talking about CPG specific experience with retail, because I've just, when you mess up retail, it can set a company back indefinitely or at least a few years.
trademarks, another one, insurances. You get a non-CPG team, and then they spend millions fixing trademark problems, and if you can't fix those, you're bankrupt.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of landmines. Yeah, there's a lot, especially when you get bigger. Another one is along this journey to growing, building teams in-house versus working with agencies. How do you think about that? How's that changed over time? What's kind of your experience in working with service providers versus just building in-house?
I'm always curious what you think. We've done it both.
Yeah.
We've had it pretty much every function in the company in-house at some point, or partially in-house. We've had almost everything outsourced. And it depends on your team and their strengths and focus. I think it's hard to have everything in-house and be great at everything, but pick a couple areas which you will have in-house that you're world-class, and then others where, like right now our team is very good at retail, like ops, like that kind of stuff. But then a lot of like marketing, e-commerce is almost completely outsourced. Whereas before we had all the full e-commerce gamut in-house. Media buyers, copywriters, graphic design, everyone was in-house. Customer service was 100% in-house. And then now it's like somewhat the opposite. We want to be excellent in retail in-house and then partner with great people in e-commerce.
Yeah, makes sense.
What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think it really depends, because for a lot of CPG brands, you mentioned they're indefensible. So a lot of CPG companies, from a D2C perspective, it looks like they're marketing companies with a product, because they have to be so competitive at setting up the whole acquisition funnel D2C. It's just super cutthroat, especially for things like CPG versus other brands that run ads online. It's way more competitive because, if you're a local auto dealer, your competition running ads online is nothing like if you're a protein gummy or a plant-based protein. Super cutthroat. Everyone in the world is competing against you. So you're, in a sense, you need to be like a marketing company with a product if you're doing it in-house. Marketing has to be your expertise, probably even more than your product. Because in a lot of ways, the marketplace in ads you're advertising on is more competitive than the product space, I would think, just because of the speed of iteration and change versus physical products. So if you don't have that, I feel like you do need help. If that's not what you're best at in the world, you probably do need help. The problem I see is that I think the best teams for marketing, regardless of whether they're in-house or at a service provider, are going to be the people that have the systems, incentives, and motivation to work really hard. And systems help a little, but I really think talent and having the right incentive structure in place is what really gets people to like turn their brains on. So wherever that's going to happen, like whether you're building in-house or you're working with a service provider, like the way that they're structuring incentives and the talent they have, I feel like is the deciding factor on what's going to be better. So if you bring someone in that has like better talent and they're more motivated for whatever reason to get this job done, I feel like you'll have better performance. If you can do that in-house and offer the right people, the right comp, really get the right talent and their brains are switched on to work with you, then I think you'll get the better performance in-house. Kind of how I think about it.
Yeah. It also matters a little bit, like besides your strengths on, again, the category. If you work with, let's say in e-commerce, on somebody does media buying or other things in the acquisition universe, if you work with an agency, they have access to dozens, if not hundreds of other ad accounts.
Yeah.
So like Meta is not working, you're like, is it a trend? Is it your company or is it everyone or almost everyone, right? That's a benefit, right? The negative is maybe your CAC LTV model is different than everyone else's.
Yeah.
Like you can afford a higher CAC or like what does success look like? So unless you're really good at communicating, it can either hurt or help if it's outsourced or in-house, depending on what kind of company you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense. Yeah. And it's also if you have a service provider and they're not super focused on your company, not picking up on those kind of differences in the business model in terms of how you're actually generating a profit on the P&L, then it can be a huge problem, because a pattern you see that might work for another company with a slightly different cost structure is not going to apply. So
yes.
Yeah. It's very important. I think the only people I've heard about that have solved this well was I was talking to one of the sales leaders at a agency, Mute 6. They sold a bunch of times. They're not the same agency they were. But back in the day, he was talking about how their top salespeople and top media buyers and account strategists were getting paid up to like 350, 400K. To me, that's great if you can have a business model that does that, because then you can really get some of the best talent that's really switched on to treat businesses like they're their own And I think that solves a lot of those problems because when you have someone getting paid that much, assuming their focus isn't split, they're going to be honed into those details like, oh, this cost structure is different from them. Try to figure out how you can apply learnings in a realistic way for a company.
Yes, I've seen a lot of great agencies over the years, and a year later, they're not so great because you grow, a lot of turnover. That's also the thing is like, you get somebody that starts a new agency or the founders are really engaged. Same true with Amazon, not just D2C, but like they're great for a while and then not so great later. So yeah, that depends too. Like you have a great agency and you have a horrible experience.
Yeah.
I actually saw that very recently with a web agency that crushed for everyone.
Yeah.
And then I recommended it to someone and they sucked so bad.
Yeah.
But they just put the C team, and even the C person was probably not that interested in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not going to recommend them again. You know? So like, one of those things.
Yeah.
And they've delivered great work to others.
Yeah. 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 I've had the experience. I actually worked with a web agency where I was on with months going back and forth on changes with the team. And one of the founders got on with me and in one day solved every problem. And I was just like, man, something didn't scale in that organization. So I've had that experience. Okay, cool. Talking about CPG and kind of the cost model and growth model, you mentioned that CPG has some of the highest rates, internal rates of return compared to other business models. Why is that important for investors, and why does that make it a good or bad business type to look at investing in?
Yeah, that data is specific to private equity. That last time I looked at it, it was the second best asset class within private equity after software as a service.
Okay.
It would probably arguably the worst VC category in the world.
Interesting. Because of what you talked about with that dynamic where at a small level it's so inconsistent, the growth.
It's so hard to know what wins, and if you happen to get a winner. So software is similar. It's like it's hard to know who wins, but if you win so big. So if you make 20 investments out of a venture capital portfolio, one of them will deliver the whole fund and some. So you get 2 winners, you're a slam dunk winner. So you can fail 18. CPG, the winners don't deliver that kind of outsized returns that often. It's super rare. Versus in private equity, you've already solved the most hardest part. Like you have product market fit. It's once you get to like a certain $1 million in sales, depending on the category, you're so likely to double, triple, quadruple the business. And how it gets structured on the private equity side with preferred shares and other ways, they've downsized the risks like
substantially,
so much. So like you're almost impossible to lose money. It happens, but almost never. And you're very likely to double, triple. And if you do more than triple, that's gravy. So it's just like a very steady Eddie winner in later stage growth and particularly like middle market. But it's so hard early stage.
Yeah. Huge variability in outcomes compared to the later stage. One of the really important parts, and this is the last couple of questions in CPG, one of the really important parts of growing a brand in CPG, because it is indefensible, if you're selling vitamin C, someone else is also selling vitamin C, is the brand. And you mentioned without that it becomes a race to the bottom, essentially. What is a brand from your point of view? How do people build brands? Like, what is the essence of a brand for you?
Dude, I don't know if I want to answer it because there's all these brand people talking bunch of gibberish, and it kind of all makes sense, and none of it makes sense. So
but you're like the guy behind. You have a brand, so I feel like some part of you must have done something.
Yeah, I mean I even hate saying this, but I'll say it. It's like trust in a delivery. And a lot of the brand people often tell you these cool, sexy stories. But arguably, like the best brands are like Amazon. And like their brand is that it's the same day delivery or whatever. Cheap prices, same day delivery. Or it's like Craigslist of like shitty website, complete Wild West.
You get what you're there for.
Can't trust anyone. But it's, free 99. Mostly free. And if you post for a car, it's like $50 or whatever it is. So you know what you're getting. And you love that deal. So I think it's like brand is like trust of consistent delivery of some kind. But man, these brand people, it's a thing and it's an important thing, but it's hard to describe or teach. And I feel like the people who talk and teach about it understand it even less than anyone else. But it's like parenting. Like it's having a kid is like such a magical
subject.
experience
Yeah,
and something you like, wow. Like, but it's like pretty hard to explain it to someone who hasn't had a kid.
yeah, yeah,
You know, or psychedelics. Like
yeah,
what is that experience? God.
yeah, yeah,
You know.
yeah, yeah,
But it's important and makes you stand out. And maybe more importantly than it helps you stand out, it helps you sustain something.
yeah. Helps you sustain for sure. Yeah, the only good ones I've heard are like it's the amalgamation of all the positive associations with your brand or negative, right? So as you pack on more negative, somebody gets the thing and it's not what they expect, brand goes down. For me, I think it is consistently surprising and delighting customers because we always hear people say like, oh, I just want to be like, I just want a brand like Apple or like Tesla. But it's like there was like years of above expected delivery of product that wowed people and got word of mouth and had a lot of positive associations. So I don't know. That's all I can.
Yeah, like Apple. Like I use all kinds of things Apple, and my last 3-4 phones suck.
Yeah.
But before it was awesome.
Yeah.
But I mean, right now they break.
Yeah.
The battery is horrible.
Yep.
Nothing works. It keeps freezing. It's like not that great of a product, but everyone always says it's just like such a great product and brand. And so I guess like it gives you like room to fail a little more than if you didn't have it.
Yeah, a buffer for sure. Yeah, and probably just carrying some brand momentum at that point. And with your growth so far, what are some of like the biggest mistakes you've made where you look back and you're like, that was definitely wrong. Wish I had known that.
So many, and the biggest ones are kind of boring. I don't know if anyone wants to even hear them, but they're like lack of focus, did too many things. Yeah. Literally every entrepreneur goes through that, and you just kind of have to do it yourself. But like that's a classic. Hiring the wrong people, either too junior people who had passion but no clue what they're doing, or I hired senior people that were expensive but their heart was not in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's people, lack of focus. Those are the pretty obvious ones.
Yeah.
All the like very tactical, more interesting stories make good stories, but they're usually easier to recover.
Yeah.
Like really dumb. Like being too early, that was one. We launched edible skincare.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because everything you put on your skin absorbs.
Yeah.
And mushrooms are amazing for your skin and internal health.
Yeah.
There's a lot of beauty products that have mushrooms, but they were using low quality shit and they didn't know how to formulate.
Wouldn't want to eat it. Yeah.
So we created a skincare product that was amazing. Still, I have people messaging me is like, why did you take it away? But
you're the only one.
Yeah, but
for sure.
Man, like, I mean, this is like not 10 years later, but many, almost 10 years later, and people still don't, like edible skincare would still be early. You would launch an edible skincare brand today and you would be a pioneer, and we did it 10 years before. So like you can be way too early.
Yeah. And with creating these like kind of very different products, one of the things you talk about too is creating a community and polarizing people with maybe your standards, your boundaries you have as a brand, which kind of ties in this brand topic. Did you guys like what people did you consciously try to like push away? And do you now lean more into like just consensus building, build our tribe, or do you try to actively push people away in your brand messaging and marketing for Four Sigmatic?
Yeah. Early on, the two ways how we built community was like we had a free Facebook group. It got really big.
Nice.
And the theme there was just kindness and excitement for mushrooms. But there was a lot of people with different dietary and backgrounds and religious beliefs. And we were very tolerant to those as long as you were kind and into mushrooms.
Nice.
And then we had a retail store in Abercrombie in LA, and it was the same thing. We would give free product to everyone. It was like a cafe that we didn't have to pay.
Yeah.
And it was the same. It was around like kindness and treating people well.
Yeah.
And be open to other beliefs. Mm-hmm. But once you get to a certain point, it becomes like harder to nourish a community because it's like widespread. You're sold in many channels. So it's one of those things that exist, but it's also like pretty hard.
Yeah, maybe you're easier to do in the early days.
Yeah. There are brands who've done it really well a long time. Like, your Harley Davidson is a great example of like, it's like a cult.
Yeah.
So I think there's, it does exist and we have some of it, but I think other people have done it even better than we did.
Yeah. I did have a question about, it came up a couple times that you've developed this like really robust, wide and deep network. And I'm wondering how you think about that. Cause I know you've mentioned you're not into bragging. You seem fairly understated. Like, I don't know you that well, Tero, but correct me if I'm wrong. Like, you seem like you're pretty understated. Don't like brag about your accomplishments very often or ever. Yet you've developed this like crazy network, according to some of the other interviews you've had and the little bit I know about you. So how did you do that? Like, how would you recommend people try to grow their network? Because it's important, but I know this is something people feel weird about, like consciously investing in or developing.
When I got to the US, before we launched here, I took a conscious call to talk to like 100 industry people. And it was like a job. It was like a goal because I was like unsure if I should launch in the US because we had a small yet very profitable business outside of the US. But then US was the way to make the biggest global impact on people's health. But it was like very expensive and we had to raise some money. Not a lot, but like a few $100,000. And I was like unsure. So I came to the US on a tourist visa. I used every way I could to invite people for coffee on LA, New York, whatever.
Yeah.
And just like ask them questions. A lot of people are very generous with their time and help.
Yeah.
So that's why like I've also done it with other people because that was done to me. And then when I moved to the US, like we didn't have much money. I would go to all these events sampling the product.
Yeah.
And I put in easy 10,000 hours sampling the product, probably 20, 30,000.
Like just of other brands and stuff? Yeah.
And I would go to these health food events or stores,
Yeah.
do demos, they're called.
Yeah.
You sample it at Whole Foods or
Yeah.
Costco.
Yeah.
Done a lot of those.
Yeah.
Like I was on the road 6 months of the year, just out of survival. And you would meet people and I guess I was not transactional. That's why like certain people like me. But I don't think I have that impressive of a network. I know a lot of people have more better ones. They're more intentional. I like, my wife would tell me that like I might introduce them to my wife and then she's actually friends and keeps touch with them. And I'm I'm like introverted.
Yeah.
Like I like to stay home, especially now with kids.
Yeah. For sure.
So like I travel way less than I used to before kids.
Yeah.
So I don't know if mine is, but then like people who I'm close with, I'm like very close with.
Yes. Yeah.
So
yeah. That makes sense why you wouldn't identify as like someone's networking. But it is interesting also that you did 6 months on the road. And you're talking about, just to be clear, not sampling other people's products, just doing store samplings for Four Sigmatic for 6 months out of the year. That's quite a bit on the road. How many years was this?
I moved to the US in 2015 and I did it until COVID. So 2020.
Whoa.
So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 5 and 5.5 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
And since then I've still do it like, a month of the year.
Yeah.
I do 3 to 4 weeks of the year.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So it sounds
but it's very like thoughtful now. I go to like, if we do a big Costco opening thing in a new region, I fly with the team there for 4 days and do it from Costco opening for executive members at 9 a.m. to closing at whatever it is, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah. Wow. That's a long day.
Those are long days, yeah.
So you put in the work. Okay.
But
Put in the work.
But now it's more, I get to spend time with the team and you keep in touch with customers and feedback and hear what they're saying. It's like really helpful in a small amounts. But in the beginning, it was out of necessity.
You mentioned earlier in your career, you were hardcore into minimalism. That changes a lot when you have a family. You're now getting into world schooling because I know you and my business partner Austin have talked a bunch about that. He's also interested in that. You do.
By the way, I'm getting back to minimalism. Sorry to cut you off.
No, this is great.
That's literally
the question.
So I had this like 100-item challenge.
Yeah,
that I did.
For sure.
Do you know this?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I did it actually when I was younger, for sure.
Yes.
Yep.
So during the years when I had left Finland and then launched Four Sigmatic, actually just before and after Four Sigmatic, I was like backpacking. I was like only 100 items, everything included.
Yeah, everything you own. Yeah.
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 And then with kids, you get a bloat. And this year we've already sold like 50 items away from our house, which is not a lot, that much, but like we're cleansing big time.
Yeah.
And I just I took a backpack, 35 liter.
Yeah.
And I tried to do 50 items. I'm like, can I get the 50 items? And it was like way harder than I remember. But I'm getting back to it now.
Yeah.
Like I still have way too much stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm still trying to get myself into a 35 liter backpack.
That's incredible. Yeah, I just I wanted to ask you because I recently started a family and I enjoy minimalism, but now the amount of stuff I have, it reminds me of like when I was in the military and we were packing equipment. I'm just like, where does all this come from? This is an ungodly amount of stuff, with a family, and I was just wondering how you blended that. How did you like have to sell your family on this idea of like we're gonna unload a little bit of stuff?
Yeah, it's been a process with my wife. So as a context, my wife grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
And when they were kid, they lived in a mobile home without heating.
Oh wow.
Even though the parents had money.
Yeah.
The dad has like a PhD, had worked in a big
yes,
company,
yes.
and they were just cheap. But she didn't realize that they were like acting poor.
Yeah.
And then finally the mom was like, you got to build us a house because it's cold here in the winter in Central Coast, California.
Yeah.
So they finally like moved to a house that they built. Still not like super fancy.
Yeah.
And then she moved to a big city. Her word, she was tall and skinny, so she got paid to model.
Yeah.
And she had all these clothes. And when we started like dating, she had all this stuff, like mostly clothes and things that she had been given
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, we're going to Europe. We're not checking in.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, she was like, what? It's like, there's no checking.
Yeah.
First rule of travel,
Just don't do it.
carry on.
Yeah.
And she was like, first struggling with it. And then she remembered her childhood is like, as a kid, you don't really need much.
No.
And now the past 3 years, like that's what we've been doing is just with one exception, when we went to this like winter trip and we needed more warm jackets to 5 people, then we needed to bring a suitcase. But every other trip, we're just going to carry on.
Yeah.
And kids don't need toys.
Mm-hmm.
They will be creative with anything. They take an empty bottle and play with it.
Yeah.
They can share clothes. Our kids are close in age.
Yeah.
Their clothes, even if you don't share, they're so small.
Yeah.
Like you can put, for every your shirt, you can put like 10 of theirs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you don't need that much.
Yeah.
We're
I
just
agree
in our
with the
head.
thing about toys, but I find that's a controversial opinion. People want toys that are specific for kids.
Rocks are toys.
I
Sticks
agree.
Are toys.
I think, blender tops, cups, they're all toys, but
I would say is cold weather makes it
yeah.
incredibly hard. But if you're in like summer, spring, fall weather,
Mm-hmm.
Europe, US, most places, I think you don't need much.
Yeah.
One pair of shoes is enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially for the kids. They don't need that
Yeah.
many. I think you have one where you talk about the mushrooms having their own agenda. And Jesse asked you, do we know whose agenda it is? And like the mushrooms. And you mentioned, you say, is it the mushrooms' agenda? Is it more holistic being and the mushrooms are just servants of that higher being? And you said, I do think they're selfish, but I think they're selfish through the lens of harmony. And then he asks, do you think they spawned human civilization? And you said, they definitely were here before. They definitely have intelligence, and they definitely have been part of the story of humans since day one. So what role at all do you think mushrooms play in the story of humans? Do you have a deep philosophical belief you could condense into like 20 seconds?
Yeah, I think it's undeniable that we would not be here as Homo sapiens without fungal kingdom.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we'll be going forward either. They're in our skin, they're in our gut, they're needed to grow food, and they're impacting air, a bunch of stuff. So we would not be here without them. And they were here before us, and they will be here after us. When we talk about panspermia and evolution theory and these kind of things, it's such a rabbit hole that it's not a 20-second conversation.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in it, my guy Jesse Michaels creates pretty interesting content on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you want to go check it out.
Yeah.
He's great. Like many species probably, but for sure humans love to think about ourselves as like the center of the universe. Some people call it, the ecosystem versus ecosystem. And yeah, and obviously that's not true. Like we need bacteria, we need fungi, but there's an element that we cannot probably explain fully. God, soul, spirit, something intangible, UFOs. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's something there that we don't fully understand today.